Welcome back. I thought it was time I did a garden tour. Today it's the 11th of December, so we're nearly 2 weeks into summer. So I thought I'd do a December garden tour. So here's just a pan of the big veggie garden. I thought I'd start with the raised garden beds. So the raised garden beds are looking a bit messy at the moment, and primarily that's because I'm letting a lot of what's in there go to seed. The snow peas that are in there, we've harvested so many that we nearly had enough of snow peas. But what I'm doing now is just letting them dry on the vines so that then we can harvest the pods like this little one here, which I've done so far, and we've got quite a few, so I'll continue to do that. And we've got coriander, lettuce, silver beet all going to seed in there, more coriander and more snow peas, lots of lettuces. They look like Christmas trees, don't they? We've got kale, and around here broad beans. So the broad beans are now at a stage where they're a little bit big to eat, so what I'm doing is letting those dry on the vine, and then we'll pop them away for seeds for next year, because all the broad beans that I've planted this year were from seeds I saved last year, so they save really well, the seeds, from year to year, as do snow peas. And a lot of the lettuces that we've harvested this year that I have grown are what I grew from seed. So that's why they're looking a little bit messy. So that'll take a little bit for them to dry up, and then we'll replant something probably in the autumn. But the big garden is growing fantastic, and I'm pretty happy with how things are going, considering we really only got the first bed going in August, which was the potatoes. So we've got 2 beds of potatoes. We've harvested up to that long white peg there, and have started to replant some more, which are growing. So I think we'll have potatoes into, I don't know how long they'll last us for, but you can see these ones the heads are dying off, but the potatoes are under there, and the best place to store them is just keep them in the ground. And at the back here I've got some oca, or New Zealand yams, and they came from our friends in Melbourne, Annie and Steve, and they're growing nice. They look like they need a bit of a water, but this morning leaves are all out. So on to the next bed, we've got snow peas here. They were a different variety that we grew. They were a giant variety, a Japanese variety. I can't remember the name of them. They had a lovely purple flower, but they weren't quite as sweet as the other ones, so I don't think I'll save those seeds and repot. A big tall sunflower, which is just starting to open up. I think the cockies will probably get that one. So in this bed along here we've got beetroot. It's mainly a bed of beetroot. I planted some black-eyed beans in there, carrots, more beetroot, carrots, beetroot, and then down here some red onions that are growing nice. You can see those nice bulbs coming up. That looks great. And more carrots and beetroot. On the end of each garden bed I've tried to put a flower of some description, whether it be a sunflower or marigold. There's some carnations down here to encourage the pollinators, but it's just pretty as well. This is the brassica bed that I planted, and we've still got some red cabbages in there that I thought would just go to the pigs, but there is a little head forming, but possibly won't go too far. And then I've just planted some peas in here just to have a bit of a cover crop before we plant the next brassicas in autumn, unless I change my mind and put something else in there. These are collies, and I can't believe they're still growing, and surprise, surprise, there is a little cauliflower head in there, and this one's actually bigger. I don't know how big they'll get, being that it's starting to get warm. Some purple sprouting broccoli, which takes a lot longer. We did have some broccoli in there that we mainly harvested for the chickens. And then this bed here, up the end, we've got some broad beans, which these I planted from seed when we got here, and So we're harvesting those at the moment. They're lovely, they're looking great. You can see all the bees. This is a broccoli that's gone to flower, so just letting the bees enjoy that at the moment. The next bed is, we've got Jerusalem artichokes that are just self-seeding from everywhere. So I'm letting some of those stay. Comfrey everywhere, it's hard to get rid of. Another volunteer potato. A tomato at the end there. More Jerusalem artichokes and a pretty little carnation at the end. But this is was supposed to be a capsicum bed, and it still is. It's just they have really not taken off here. I think it's just that it's a lot colder in the mornings and at night than I anticipated it would be. I don't know if that's normal for here, being that we sort of are in a bit of a valley, but yesterday it was 3 degrees in the morning and we're in summer. So they have not thrived as I thought they would, but hopefully they'll come on with a little bit more warmth. There's some leeks I planted beside those and they're growing really well actually. But happy with how my tomatoes are growing. We've got a couple that have reached the top of the trellis. So lots of different varieties in there. And I have to sit down and count, but there's at least six to 8 varieties, and they're all planted from seed. Some seed that I bought, some seed that I saved, some seed that I was given. So a few different varieties. This one is a nice cherry one, so hopefully that will start to ripen soon. We've got some big beefsteaky ones. This one I'm excited for is a little yellow pear. I don't know if you can see there, but it's a cute little shape, so that's going to be nice. And then there's a variety over here that's going to be orange, and they're looking really good. So they're looking like they're doing beautiful. So really happy with how the tomatoes are growing, and the climbing beans are doing fantastic too. So under this trellis, which is lovely, there are some purple beans with purple flowers, but majority of them, and these were all saved seeds. We've got some lovely beans and they're starting to hang down, so that will be hopefully a lovely little trellis. There is some cucumbers at the end there which are just starting to come away. They've taken a long time too, and I think it's just that purely because it's been a little bit colder. And this is Jerusalem artichokes everywhere. This is my zucchini bed. We've got more zucchinis than we probably need, but I was given a couple of plants from Bryony, and you don't give up a plant if you get given it. So there's yellow ones at the end here, and then a couple of blacks or black beauties, that one. And then there's also a little squash growing there. You can see the little squash growing. So I've got a couple of squash plants. And then these zucchinis are a different type, which I've never grown before. So we've been harvesting those. Probably not growing as quick as I thought they would grow, but I think maybe it's the same thing again, just temperature. So here in the end of this bit, we've got our celery. So we growing a couple of celeries, and we just pull those stalks off as we need them. Then more carrots, parsnips. I love parsnips. I love roasted parsnips. So they'll be in the ground till sort of winter, and they're best to harvest after the first frost because it makes them sweeter. These are dwarf beans, so different to the climbing beans, but they look like they're not too far away from flowering, which is great. Then, so I've stagger planted some more dwarf beans, and the hope is that when the other ones are finished, these ones will go, and some more parsnips. Parsnips and carrots are tricky to germinate sometimes, but I've had good success so far in this this garden bed, which is excellent. More beetroot and more carrots. This is the sweet potato bed, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 5 sweet potato in, and hopefully with the warmer weather now they'll come away and we'll get some sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. I grew a couple last year in a grow bag in Melbourne, and they did well, so we'll see. We've bought these, so they're all different types. Hopefully this one's starting to look like it's coming away. And then I just planted some more carrots and beetroot. I love carrots and beetroot. A couple of eggplants. Never grown eggplant before, but we saw them at the shop the other day, and this one's a little purple one. I actually never cook with eggplant. I don't really know what to do with it, but I thought, well, we have the space, let's grow it. So a couple more tomatoes I've plonked in here. I seem to have tomatoes everywhere. And finally, there's a couple of, in here I saw yesterday, there's a, I don't see it, but there's a little cucumber growing. So that'll be nice. And my basil is finally starting to come away, and it's like everything just hanging out for some warm weather. But all in all, it's looking really green, and it certainly is keeping me busy. There's you know, most days you walk along and pull weeds out of the garden, but that's to be expected when you've got a new garden. And I'll show you the berry patch. So here we are down at the berry patch. The chickens, we've got the Australops in the orchard at the moment, and they follow me around. They think there's something there for them. So we've got the blackberries at the back, all the rhubarb at the front here, and rhubarb at the back, then all the strawberries. So the blackberries are starting to come away now, and then we've got some flowers, which is nice. And this blackberry is really taking off. But the strawberries have done fantastic. At the moment I've got little bags over them because there has been a critter eating them, but these are just massive. You can see how big they are on my hand, and they are absolutely delicious. So I just cover them at the moment, and it's not too hard to do that individually because they're so big. The other option is covering them all. I don't know what is eating them. If we don't cover them, I'm suspecting probably a rat or a possum or something, but they're looking really healthy. I am pulling off most of the runners, but I am collecting a couple of runners to make some little daughters to give away as well, because they are just fantastic. This rhubarb on the end is going well too. It's not, the stalks aren't as big as the rhubarb on that end for some reason. Don't know why, but yeah. So over to the berry patch through the massive sunflowers. We're still getting some red raspberries here, and all these ones I hoped were summer fruiting ones, and these raspberries here were the ones we got from a swap meet, and they were supposed to be yellow ones, and I did see some. Look how you can see them down here, even though they're not the best shape, that they're going to be yellow. And apparently yellow berries are very tasty, so we'll see. So more raspberries coming up. They're not very, they're funny looking little ones. But we've got 3 or 4 bushes that are giving small amounts. And then these raspberries are the autumn ones, so they will hopefully flush in autumn. Take you under the blueberries. So we've got the blueberries covered at the moment because we certainly would like to harvest some of those. So we'll take them under, show you the blueberry bushes. So they're looking great, and I'm amazed how many we're getting off, considering we've just planted them this year. Like, we only put them in September. And a rogue volunteer tomato, which I've just left there. I don't know what type it is, but some more here. So I haven't harvested any of these today. A nice little daisy at the end, but they're looking really good. It's just lovely to come in and bring a little bowl and harvest what you can get out on a daily basis, and just eat some fresh berries. I'll just get out. Ugh. All right, so that's that. What's down here? The asparagus bed. So we're just letting the asparagus grow so that it can send all its energy down to its roots, and then hopefully next year we'll get some asparagus. We can see there's a couple of asparagus actually are starting to come away that aren't too bad, but we're just going to let them grow. We don't want to pick those off yet, and hopefully that means next year we'll have a better harvest. This is only half a bed of asparagus, and then there's some random strawberries and some things at the back that I've potted up, and heaps of chickens. Some flowers. I've tried to plant quite a few flowers around. There's another big sunflower here, and these ones here. And once the sunflowers have headed, then they'll be for the chickens, which the chickens will enjoy. I've actually planted some ginger in this pot, but at this stage it hasn't come up, and I'm suspecting it might be too cold at this stage. Look at those delicious strawberries. I'd better put that one in a bag before it gets eaten. These strawberries look very different to these ones, because these ones were here when we arrived. It was just a big clump of them, and I just divided them up and popped them in. They've got a really pretty pink flower, and they do have some berries on them. They're just not very big, but they are tasty, so I'm just letting them live and see how it goes. But I'm definitely up for some rhubarb and apple crumble. They're looking great. Most of these rhubarbs I transplanted from our old home, and then there was a couple that were here already. I'll take you in and show you a quick look at some of the fruit trees in the orchard. So excuse the background music from Roger. Excuse me, girls. They're just all at my feet. So we've had some good things happen in the orchard, and a couple of not so good things happen. The cherry trees, we got some lovely cherries off these two trees that were already here. This tree we brought in, and it's still got a couple of cherries on them. And then yesterday, I think these chickens jump up there because there was a broken branch, but they're probably trying to get those, so I should pull those off. So where do we start? Let's go down the back to these apple trees, which I'm very excited about. These apples, they're looking great. So there's 3 apple trees, and don't know the brand of them, but they apparently just eating apples. I've got a bit of red on them. They're starting to grow, so that's how big they are now. And in this tree, they're a different type. They all look a bit different. I know we have got a Granny Smith, but I don't think it's those ones. I'm suspecting this is the Granny Smith because they look a bit greener. Could be wrong, but they also have a bit of a flush of pink on them. So, But this tree here has got stacks and stacks in them. I've got a trap up there for the codling moth, and I did put tree guards on them all, so I'm hoping that is enough to curtail codling moth. Down here's our pear tree, which is looking lovely. You've got some gorgeous sized pears that are growing, but it's certainly, once these all fruit, is going to need a bit of summer pruning, which I've done to a few bushes and need to do some more. This is our nectarine tree, which has got some nectarines on. They're not that big at the moment. They're not as big. Noisy, Roger. They're not as big as the peaches, and I've tried to thin, and I probably should have thinned a little bit more, but it's really hard to thin fruit because you feel like you're getting rid of them. So we've got 3 peach trees, I think that's right, and they all look like different types of peaches. These ones are a lot yellower, and then these ones on this funny little tree, which I thought I'm pulling that out, but actually they've got some lovely fruit on it, so whether or not we can resurrect it, but shape wise it's bizarre how it can just continue to produce fruit. But this tree, which is the biggest one, has probably got the least amount on it, and they're smaller, but they're a lot redder. So it too, I mean, I gave it a really good prune in winter, but it needs a summer prune just to head it off because it's just growing so tall. So we'll be interested to see what they're like. This is a plum tree, and at first I thought there's no plums on that, but there's actually some plums there, so that'll be interesting to see what they're like. An apricot tree here, and I was just reading up because it's got no apricots on it, But apparently it's one of the first trees to flower, and if you get a frost or a rain then and no bees are out, then you're not going to get much of a harvest. And that is true for us. We're not going to get any apricots this year. We've got 3 fig trees come through, and we've already got some figs from the first flush here, and they're looking good. They're a different fig than what we had at home, so I'll be interested to see when they ripen. And there are new figs that are forming, which you can see in there. This is our quince tree, and they're starting to grow in size. Never had a quince tree, never done anything with quince, but I'm guessing there'll be some quince paste going. This fig tree, I thought, man, if that came back, that'd be a miracle, because I chopped it back big time. And it does even look like they've got some little ones growing, so we'll see how that goes. And then this fig tree at the end, I didn't chop as much, and it's got some figs growing in there too. So hopefully we'll get a good fig harvest. You can see some, I saw some yesterday. But it's certainly a nice shaped tree. So yeah, that's the orchard. There is another plum tree in there that has only got a couple on it. And then we've got some citrus trees apparently. It's a mandarin, an orange, a kumquat, and we've got 2 lemons. We struggled with the trees in here at the moment, and I mean, ideally if I was building an orchard I wouldn't have citrus in here. But they got devastated by this poor little lemon tree here, look at it, by the bronzed orange bug, or the stink bug people call them, and you'll be able to see some. But what we started and put some eco oil on it. You can see one right up there, it's an orange bug, but it was just covered in them. The big adult ones are big and black, but they just sap all the energy out of the tree, and we found it too late really, and we didn't do as much as we should have with it. We sprayed it with eco oil, and that really, I reckon it made them grow. And then we put some soapy water on it, and that didn't do anything. So what we've been doing now is every night we just come out and we pick them off, and that's been the best thing. There's still a few in there, and we'll do that again tonight. The kumquat's got a few on them. Oh, you can see one right there. Dastardly things, they really just, but that tree's faring a little bit better. But our orange tree has gone the same way of the lemon, and you can see there's quite a few on there, which last night when we finished up looked like we had them all, but they hide. And that bit of the orange tree looks all right, but around here you can see where they've devastated it. So yeah, that's our job every night. And the mandarin's got a few on them, but not too many, so hopefully they survive. But yeah, they're terrible things. They just absolutely suck the living out of them. But there are a couple of little oranges, and so I want to, hopefully we can preserve them. But you see them, they're just everywhere. We get water and tweezers and pluck them off and just drown them into the water. And then, oh, this is what we did last night. I was going to say sometimes the chickens eat them, but that's all the ones we got off last night, and they haven't eaten those, because you've got to be really careful. You've got to wear gloves and glasses, because they spurt a acidy fluid on you, and I've had a couple of burns, and so you've got to make sure they don't get you in the eyes. Terrible, terrible things. And this is my little peach tree that I've planted, and that looks quite nice, apart from the fact that the birds like to dust bath at the bottom of it. So I've put all those sticks there to stop them dust bathing. Because look at this dust bath I've made. It's really deep. Chickens are great in the orchard, but they are a little bit destructive as well. So yeah, hopefully we can bring this lemon tree back to health. And like lots of things, you live and learn, don't you? Next year we'll be onto it a bit better. So that's the garden, the berries in the orchard. All is growing well, and let's hope with a little bit more warmer weather things will start to pop a little bit more. I look forward to showing you when we're starting to harvest some of this fruit. Until next time, thanks for watching.